Ucha, Ubenefer. OCO. Let's see here. How am I going to do this? Oh, I got to switch the camera around. Should be my first step. Ucha, Ubenefer. Thank you, Queen Flame, for being here. Peace and love. Thank you. All right. Just gonna wait. I'm sipping my tea. I made tea, but I didn't get to have any. Thank you. Yeah, it's a beautiful day in Chicago. I took my dog for a walk early. I usually don't do that. Oh, it's perfect temperature. All right. And then we have got some sage. Oh. Thank you for the likes. And some sage. Get the space ready. I don't really have a itinerary. I just know what subjects I'd like to have discussed. And if at any point, those of you on TikTok, if you want to join in the discussion, just leave me a little note and I will bring you in. I really appreciate Queen Flame Keeper here. Queen Flame Keep Her. Oh, that's interesting. It's very interesting because it reminds me of when I was a younger person. I came home for a break from college. I went to Oberlin. And my dad, I guess they were low on money. And he took me to a place called the Copper Box too. And I thought it was Copper Box, but it's Copper Box. I was in a leg contest. I've never seen anyone else use keep her like that. Keep her. Thank you. I appreciate you. I totally do. All right. So who am I and why am I on here talking about nation building from a spiritual foundation? Well, my name is Tachia Ahmet El Ma'at, aka these are pinhole glasses. I need them to see the tiny letters on the screen. They force your eyes to focus instead of magnifying what you're looking at. And you can get them at my website. Thank you. I'm dedicated to keeping her in the light. That is wonderful. We need more of that in the world. It does get pushed aside. Oh, truth trillionaire. Truth trillionaire, if you would like to join as a guest, let me know. I've stopped randomly inviting people because some people want to do the match game, and I have no way of knowing that ahead of time. So anyway, my name is Tachia. I've been a reggae and world music artist for almost 40 years now. Although I don't get to do many reggae performances anymore because the music industry has changed drastically and I have not figured it out. But I still have my reggae music, and my reggae music is unique. Anyone who's drawn to this subject, you must check it out because it is, at the time it was called Black Native Music, representing Turtle Island, Black Turtle Island, to Hatem. And I have Cherokee music, I have some Lakota songs, I have original Cherokee songs. I happen to have Cherokee ancestry on 3 sides. 3 grandparents have Cherokee mothers, and the 4th one had a Lakota mother. And I began my spiritual journey as a Rastafarian, then we got into Black Hebrew Israelites. And when I was expecting my first child, we happened to go home. Oh, Pumpkin is here. Thank you for being here. Went home, and my grandmother on my father's side, my ex-husband is also mixed. He's Mexican or Mayan, Moroccan, Cherokee, Polish, and Spanish, of course, living in Mexico or the border of Mexico. And so he mentioned that, and my grandmother was like, "Oh, really? Your grandfather's mother was Cherokee or Black Cherokee, and her mother had been Lakota." And I was like, "What? I didn't know that. I saw roots and everything, but I guess when they told me that information, I had no idea." Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Goddess Queen Flame. Keep her, and I hope to see you again soon. Dua, thank you so much. And if you're interested, you can always catch the replay on my YouTube music channel. So I was stunned. I didn't know that. Like I said, when I studied Roots, that movie Roots, it didn't register. Cherokee, I didn't know. It was just a Black girl from the South Side of Chicago. So once I had that information, that I had Cherokee great grandmothers and Lakota great grandmother, that changed everything for me. And I started to get into what is known as Native American culture and music and spirituality. And then these reggae songs just came out of me. Lakota Four Directions is a Lakota medicine song that's usually sung at the Sweat Lodge. And Shalagi Thankful is a song of thanksgiving from the Cherokee, the Cherokee culture, traditions. So I released those songs, and then I became known as a Black Native American reggae singer, and we toured with the Bob Marley Festival for several years, and everything was moving along. And then I had some songs about Hebrew Israelite traditions, the Tree of Life, Tribe of Dinah, and then somehow I got into Japanese Buddhism. And I have a few songs about Japanese Buddhism. And of course, I studied yoga. I have 3 songs about Vedic spirituality as well. However, the Turtle Island music is just part of my soul and my ancestral lineage. And the next album is called Black Turtle Island, and it is about the Black Native experience. We have songs based on wisdom teachings of Marcus Garvey and Langston Hughes. I've Known Rivers. Just beautiful music, just amazing. Probably people said that's the best album. And then my next album, Celestial Folk Music, is about what my research project in grad school would have been. The PhD project would have been about galactic cultures and Sirius cultures. And I have Cherokee music. I have a song based on the Dogon teachings about Sirius. And I have songs about the Milky Way from the Peruvian tradition. And we talked about that a little bit last week. And that's really my research project, is uniting Kemet and TaMarian culture. Recently came into the awareness that I've stopped referring to myself as Black or African American, because those are not nations. There's no sovereignty connected to them. There's no real identity. There's no reason for us to use those terms other than those are the terms given to us by colonizers. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your presence. This is Good Rising TV. My name is Tachia. Is that Nitra? Uja, Osio. And we're just here talking about different topics of interest to those who are Aboriginal TaMarikans, people who have what is known as Native American or Indigenous ancestry here in North, Central, and South America. Turtle Island refers to North America, United States, and Canada. And I was talking about how my music is a reflection of my journey into this awareness. And I was just talking about how I finally come to the realization I no longer identify as Black or African American, because there's no real benefit of doing that. Those were names given to us by the colonizers. I do recognize that before the invasions, the Blackness was not really just about our skin color. It was about our mindset and our spirituality. Is about the Black sky and the Black fertile soil. And I really love to identify with that. However, in 2024, it doesn't serve us to identify as that, especially if the legal system is based on a book called Black's Law, which is a standard for legalese, legal terminology. And I need to get one. I had a copy, but all my library was stolen when I moved to Chicago, and I haven't bought a new copy. But if you look up Black in Black's Law Dictionary, it is the worst thing you would identify with. You have no legal status. You're still considered as less than human, and you basically have no rights because you have no nationality, you have no nationhood. And there's no place on this world called African America, Afro America. It doesn't exist. So when you claim that, you have no identity, you have no land base, and you give up any rights to where we are. And so I started listening to people like The Earth Speaks on TikTok, and We Know the Truth. And what's the guy, Rashad Poet? Rashad Poet is always talking about the mud floods and the what's called Tartarians, and how when they say Tartarians, they're really talking about the TaMarikans, us. And my research project wasn't just through my music. I was doing galactic research and archaeology, cosmology research on the indigenous Aboriginal people of this continent. Oh, there's a comment. Hey, I follow you because I also went to Oberlin and lived in African house. Oh, peace. Okay, Nas. Well, African Heritage House at Oberlin College, unfortunately, does not have super fond memories for me. I don't know if you know about what happened in 1983 with Grace and Sean Comer. But I would love to talk about that sometime. But I want to finish my train of thought, and then maybe we can get back to that subject. Nas, if you could stay here a little bit longer. So my research was about the cosmology of the Olmec. The Olmec are the Aboriginal people of Mexico. And they're the ones who had the large Olmec heads. If you saw the introductory video, let me see if I can put that up here. I think I can, oops. I think I'm learning how to use this. Oops, maybe not. Oh, enhance, there we go. I thought that was a share button. There we go. The Olmec heads. Let me see if I can, I don't know if I have that on here. I don't know if I have that on YouTube. I should. Let me see. Yes, well, anyway, I'm going to keep talking. When they discovered the Olmec heads all over Mexico, they also uncovered what is known as the Mayan numerical system. But that proves that, no, I don't have it on here. I could just look it up real quick. Oops. That proves that they came up with the number system, not the Maya, because the Olmec are the Aboriginal people of the area. Let me see. Here we go. Oops. This will work. Just give me a minute. Actually, I have one here from when I went to Mexico. It's beautiful. Let's see here. Let me try this. Oh, no, I can just leave it there. I don't need to save it. Okay, let me go back. Oops. There we go. Oops. My goodness. That's the one I'm looking for. Okay. Chrome tab. Okay. That didn't take too long, did it? Not too long. Okay, there we go. Olmec head. All right. So these are the Aboriginal people of Mexico, and they don't look like the people that live in Mexico today. When I was traveling there, I realized that the people, the the so-called Mexicans that lived in the areas. I was in San Andreas and Veracruz and Catemaco. I noticed that the quote-unquote Mexican people that lived there look like the Olmecs, but they look like the Mexican version of the Olmecs. So you can see they have the broad nose, the lips. There's nothing about them that looks like people from Mexico, unless they're direct descendants of the Olmecs. And so my research project, after I left grad school, the first time I went back and studied cultural astronomy with Linda Sheely, the Mayans. And that's when I really started getting into this. And then also learned about the Quechua, the indigenous people or the Aboriginal people of Peru. Most people think of the Inca, but it was the Quechua that was there before them. And their cosmology system, their galactic culture, their Sirius culture. And then I started seeing a lot of information about how it's connected to the Aboriginal culture of Kemet, which is also a galactic Sirius culture. And that became my obsession for many years, for decades. I wrote a book. I haven't published it yet. I wrote it in I hope I brought it. I brought it up here. Let's see it. Yeah, I must have left it downstairs. Anyway, it's my research project on the Maya and Kemet and that's not it either. I'm sorry, I left it downstairs. The Maya, the Olmec, Kemet, and Peru, the Quechua. And so that was my life for a long time. And then I had to take time. Uja, Uba Nefer, Dua, thank you for tuning in. I had to take time to study ancient Kemet because I didn't know enough about it to make this correspondence between Olmec and Kemet. So that is what I started doing. And then I came across the book by Horace Butler, When Rocks Cry Out, where he has maps and he has receipts. He literally has the receipts to prove the connection between Kemet and TaMarikan. Where does the name TaMarikan come from? The Kemetic name for North, Central, and South America is TaMeri. The Peruvian name is, or a Mexican name is Chi Amaru, and the Peruvian name is Amaru or Amaruca. Did I ever have a chance to visit the sites in Mexico? Yes, I did. I've been to Mexico 4 times. I've been to Brazil, Peru, Ecuador, and Belize, looking for proof of ancient Kemet. And I wrote this book in 2007. It's the Celestial Olmec Travel Guide, Midsummer 2007. And I was going to start this series based on my travels. And unfortunately, the author of the book, Horace Butler, was furious that I wrote this book. And basically, it's just many of the places that he talks about in the book, When Rocks Cry Out. My goal was to go visit them and then publish a travel guide on where to stay when you want to go there, where can you get real corn tortillas and who to talk to. And he was going to sue me for plagiarism because I talked about everything in his book, like the introduction. This book has been written to make the information presented in When Rocks Cry Out, written by Horace Butler, more accessible to the public. At the time, the book is now out of print, and we don't know when national publications will be released. But basically, I just talked about Horace Butler. It was like all about Horace Butler. And so he freaked me out because I thought he was going to sue me. Here's a picture of Ijapantla, this beautiful waterfall. It's amazing. I went there because in his book, he talks about the Pantlas. And I was in Catemaco. I don't know if you can see it. If I have I was in Catemaco. Yeah, you can see it. Walking around this lake, and there was this this map. Let me take off the so you can see it. It's really a great story. Okay, I'll put it back when I need to. This map here telling me that there's a place, a waterfall. I'm sorry, I'm not doing a good job. It's backwards. A waterfall called Egypt Wantla. And in Horace Butler's book, he talks about the Pantlas that came from the western coast over to the Yucatan on a current. It took 17 months to go from Africa to Guatemala. You get in this current, and it talked about the connection, because if you look at maps, South America, like Brazil and Yucatan, it fits with Africa. Like you can just see it's a puzzle piece. And they're talking about the connection. Oh, good day, Constance Woo Woo. Welcome to TaMarikan Tuesday, where we're talking about the connection between TaMerikan and Kemet. Basically, we're talking about TaMerikan. And so there was this huge connection. So when I saw on the map that there's a place called Egypt Wantla, I had to go. So we took the bus and we went. And it was amazing. And so here's a picture on the cover. I'm in front of the Olmecs, right? Olmec heads, and here's another one. And this is the when you go to this place in San Andreas, there was only one vendor out front selling things. Everybody else was inside, like air-conditioned huts. Where'd she go? She was the only woman selling anything outside of the museum of these Olmec heads. She was the only person. She's the only one making baskets, right? And if you look at her, doesn't she resemble like a Mexican Olmec head? Look at that. Same features. They have no idea who they are. They were in a area next to the museum. There was like 13 or 12 Olmec heads outside, and they had some inside. They were in these air-conditioned huts selling stuff from the dollar store. And I was like, we need to come back here. We need to be selling Olmec head t-shirts and keychains and, all these things. Here's the gazebo. I met the gazebo there, and I met the man who booked gigs. He booked the bands to play there, and I was going to go back. And I allowed Horace Butler to scare the daylights out of me, and I didn't go back. But instead, I got into Kemetic spirituality because I needed that. I needed that to make the connection. So I studied Kemetic spirituality for 12 or 13 years, just exclusively. And after my last trip, my spirit guides, ancestors told me I needed to stop studying, focusing on Kemet, and focus on my research project, connecting the galactic and Sirius cultures of that. Yes, he felt threatened by my intelligence. Yes, and I'll tell you something about that man. When he was giving a presentation, we were visiting Texas. We're from Texas. Well, I lived in Texas for 20 years with my family, and we went back to Texas for something, and Horace Butler was gonna be at the museum in Dallas at the same time because there was a special Mayan exhibit. So my daughter Yubi and I, we rented a car, and we went, and we met him. And unfortunately, he turned out to be such a horrible person, just disgusting, horrible. And it just really shattered my confidence in the research that I wanted to do. And I'll be honest, every person that I met that was involved in Kemetic, getting Kemetic wisdom out to the world, I had really crappy experiences with them. And I don't want to start naming names, but it was really discouraging. I could not believe that these were the leaders of helping with this awakening. And I was just having really toxic experiences with them. And I was like, well, is it me? Like, am I the only one that's having this experience with Horace Butler? I already said Horace Butler. The people knew Kemet, I don't remember their names. Kwesi and his wife, I had horrible experience with them. I it's been really disturbing. Really, it really stopped me from doing my research project. And then even the Temple of Chateau Neter, I had so many problems with interesting personalities, and I didn't know why. I still don't. I don't know what is it about me that repels these people. I think it's because I'm pushing for the quote unquote narrative about this place. They're so focused on Africa. Horace Butler was angry at me because I wasn't professing Christianity. It turns out the reason he did all of that research was to show that Jesus Christ was here in Peru, because he says Peru is Heru. And, he did all this research showing about the proof of ancient Kemet, and he was mad at me because I wasn't a Christian. He chastised me for being that. When I first reached out to him, he was giving women sex advice. Yeah, that's how he made his money. He did the book to profess love for Christianity, and he made money by giving women that type of advice. So that's just one example of the crappy experiences that I had with the leaders in the movement to get this wisdom out to people. I just couldn't believe it. So much egoism. So anyway, I'm rambling, but anyway, I'm just telling you my story of how I got to be here. So after all of that, I really haven't read my own book in so long. I really need to read it again. It's just going through the things that Horace Butler talked about, and connecting the dots. Like my book includes the Lakota, the Black Hills cosmology, because my focus is on the galactic and Sirius cultures, not on our skin color, although we are the copper people of this land. But anyway, it just, after my disillusion with the Kemetic movement and the Kemetic organizations, and they're so fragmented and they're only into their own, that no other is allowed. Oh, well, they pronounce it this way, or they do it this way. There's no unity. And I'm like, well, where do I fit in? This is the only place I fit in. And I'm thankful to the content creators on TikTok who brought me back to focusing on TaMarikan. Constance Woohoo says, it's why I left the Orlando Black Pan-African community. All the men were predators. Thank you. Thank you. The men were predators. They use spirituality as a way to get in there, or their ego is so big, they have no space to accept anything new or expect anything old or anything different. Yeah, I'm not involved in any communities right now. Actually, my goal is to create a community of people that are interested in TaMerikan from a spiritual foundation. There are creators here on TikTok who cover this topic, but they're so volatile and they're so angry, and no one else is good enough. And I'm mixed, so I'm mixed. Yes, I'm Cherokee, I'm Lakota, I'm Nigerian, I'm French, and I'm German. So I don't count. Well, you know what? Most of the people that live here have similar bloodline heritage. I think what's unique about me is all the blood in me is native. The fathers and grandfathers were African, European, or indigenous, but all the grandmothers, all the great grandmothers of my bloodline, not my father's, not the men, but I'm getting mixed up, but the blood is from here. So there has to be a community for people like this, right? And people who are moved beyond Christianity and Judaism and Islam. That's why the Moorish science, that's not here either. It's Islam is not Aboriginal. Islam is part of the Western imperialism. They started out as the military for the queen. That's how the first Moors came, with the hats and everything. Yeah, so it's not for me. I'm more interested in the spirituality. I'm more interested in the cosmology. I'm more interested in the culture and the music and the foods, because here we have opportunity to build something that has been buried or ignored or forgotten, but it's not claimed. So who's going to claim Aboriginal American? Oh, thank you for the follow. Thank you for following me. The other thing that came to my mind is it's been proven that melanated, quote unquote, black people were the first people on every continent, even Europe, first in Asia, first, of course, still in Africa, first in Europe. But here, it's Native Americans are the Aboriginals. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. They don't, I'm not buying it. And then when I started getting the information about the mud flood and how a lot of these ancient buildings that they'll say that the church or whatever was founded in the 1950s, but the actual, if you look at the date that the building was constructed, it's much older. Started getting information about how there was some sort of catastrophe. Maybe it was man-made, I don't know. Everything was covered in mud. All the buildings were covered in mud. Have you all heard about the mud flood? It's a fascinating rabbit hole to go down. And when they uncovered the mud, they found all these really ancient buildings, and so what they did was they like covered over the remains. Like anytime you see a street called Boulevard, that means that they covered over like a whole city underground, or like these buildings have these huge basements and tunnels, like here in Chicago, and most of them, like during the World's Fair at the turn of the century, a lot of these buildings were claimed to have been built for the World's Fair, but there's proof that they were already there. They already had electricity. They already had plumbing. They already had these modern conveniences, right? And then they say they were built in 6 months with marble and gold. And like in Chicago, we have the Museum of Science and Industry that was built for the World's Fair. And there's no way they built that in 6 months. And then most of them were destroyed after the World's Fair because they said they were just temporary. It's fascinating. You've got to check it out. Anytime you see them talking about the Tartarians, they're talking about the TaMarikans. And then, of course, there's the mounds. Like, that's one reason why I'm glad to be back in Chicago. I've never been to the Cahokia Mounds in Illinois or St. Louis or the Mississippi area because my grandmother is from the Mississippi area. She's considered triracial. She's very, very light skinned. She has red hair, but her facial features are Lakota, and then her hair is like, what do you call it? Aboriginal, nappy. She's triracial. So there's that whole aspect. What are the mounds? The mounds were the platforms for gigantic pyramids and structures that were dismantled. Because the Native Americans, they didn't do that. And then you find Kemetic artifacts in the Grand Canyon. There's Kemetic artifacts I know for sure found in Mexico at the Temple of the Jaguar. And those were all confiscated by the Europeans that, have the expedition, and they're in the libraries. But you find Kemetic artifacts. There's a guy here in Cahokia that has a whole collection of Egyptian Kemetic artifacts that were found at the mounds. So that is my passion. That is what I intend to spend the rest of my life. Oh, here's a message from Constance Woo Woo. Do you know of a water temple priestess named Queen Mother Imaku on YouTube? I've learned so much about the Kemetic language from her. She's the only other person I've found who is sincere. Yes, I am familiar with Queen Mother Imaku. I still use her water prayer when I do my water ceremonies. And I have not seen her or spoken to her in a decade. So thank you for reminding me of her. Yes, there's a whole Mami Wata tradition as well. Do you know of the Raseki priestess, Kajara Nyaya, the Kemetic Reiki priestess? She's got a whole school of Kemetic Reiki practitioners, a whole temple dedicated to Sekhmet. Yes, I would like to be like them someday. I really do. I've just been Indras Botanicas. Thank you for joining me. I've been scared to step forward. I've been afraid because of the pushback I get whenever I open my mouth. And I'll be honest with you, my assault from when I was in graduate school um, by Neil deGrasse Tyson, I would have been the first Black female astronaut. That whole thing scared me. It took me 30 years to speak about it publicly because I was afraid of being known, and then if I spoke about it, he would he would come after me. So it took me a long time, to come out and talk about these things. Yes, yeah. Well, look up Ross Sakey. Let me type it in here. She's also on TikTok. I took one of the classes with her. Oh, I guess I took two, level two. And people say that I practice Reiki when I'm doing it, my sound healing. But I'm just gonna stick with sound and music because that's what comes to me naturally, and that's my passion. And also, there's really no one else doing what I'm doing, so that's what I'm gonna keep doing. I really appreciate those of you that are still here. I'm so grateful to you, and for those of you that were tapping the screen, I really appreciate it. And I'd love for you to tap that little orange heart at the top and become a member of my team. I don't really know what that means, but I would love it. I'm getting ready to start offering classes, online subscriptions, and in person. So that's coming next. How do you spell her name? She's dyslexic. Oh, me too. Let's see. There's not enough light for the glasses here. Kajaraniaya. There we go. But if you just look up Ross Sakey, you'll find it. Okay, so I'm all over the place here. Um, so I was just talking about why I'm doing this research and the culture and the spirituality and how much it means to me to be able to come forward because there's no one else talking about this subject that I've come across. Um, Maybe there is. I haven't found them. They're all talking about the legalities and our paperwork and our tribalism and the separatism. And if we really want to take this to the next level, we've got to connect with the spirituality. We've got to connect with the spiritual technology. For instance, this map here is a celestial map. It's based on Lakota wisdom and Hopi wisdom, and also the spiral dance. I call it the spiral dance medicine wheel. And it has the four seasons, the four directions, the four aspects of being, and also the mid seasons. And it also represents the indigenous people of the four directions. And I think I've explained in this space anyway, Aboriginals are the original people that look like the Olmecs, people that look like us, copper colored. The indigenous people are the people who over time, the appearance changed and they, due to warring or colonizing or whatever you want to call it, now the appearance has changed. The most of them no longer have kinky hair. The people you consider indigenous, they have straight hair. Many of them are still copper colored, but some are not. And then you have the Native Americans. I guess many of the indigenous people are still very heavily melanated. I'm talking about the Native Americans who there's evidence that shows that people from other places were sent here to mix with the Aboriginals and the indigenous and essentially replaced us. Like they tried to do with the immigrants here, but it's not going to work. And so those are what's called Native Americans. And Native Americans are people that are not happy about people like myself who come on here and talk about these subjects. We get a lot of hatred and pushback. And they say that we're threatening their identity, we're stealing their culture, we're disregarding their heritage. And I have to tell them that's not true. You all are descendants of the Aboriginal people. You're descendants of the indigenous people. You are the people who were here during the time of the colonization. However, there's several people here who their families never went to the reservations. Several Aboriginal American families have come forward saying that they never left. They still have their traditions. And I noticed that Aboriginal Americans or Black Native Americans are presented as, what is it called, pretendians or fake or they look out of place or like corny. Like when you talk to, I used to know Chief Black Eagle Feather, and whenever he would talk, people would just laugh at him, and it's horrible. So it's not an easy road, it's not an easy path to make this claim, let alone to claim as a TaMeri, Kemetic spirituality and Aboriginal American spirituality. I know one thing I'm interested in, because a lot of the people talking about this subject, oh, good rising, Hazy Galaxy, thank you for tuning in. They are so angry about the fact that there are Native Americans and Indigenous people, and they have hatred towards them. Like when I mentioned Lakota or Cherokee, they say, "Oh, that's not us." And I was like, they are us. We're related. Just because they don't look like Aboriginals anymore, they've been holding the traditions that were passed down to them. I believe that even their ancestors were Aboriginal. They have Aboriginal lineage too. We can't just X them out. That doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm mixed, and you telling me where am I going to go? I can't go back to Europe. I can't go back to Africa. I'm from here. So we have to have a space that includes the descendants of the Aboriginal people, and recognize the cultures that have survived, recognize the traditions that are still here, and build. Let's build. Like, if the only thing that's missing, if you ask me, is the Kemetic, well, I don't even say Kemetic, the Natarian Foundation. The Natarian Foundation is what connects all Native, Indigenous, Aboriginal spiritual technologies. That's why I've stopped using Kemetic unless I'm talking about the actual place in Africa. I use the term Natarian, Neter, Neteru, Natarian, Medu Neter. Neter means divinity. It means cosmic force of nature. Nature, the word nature comes from Neter. Every Aboriginal, every Indigenous, every Native American community honors the four elements: fire, air, water, earth. Every spiritual community tradition that's not from the colonizers honors the elements. That's where you begin. This chart right here has everything. People get caught up on the color and the racial designation. It's just a chart. It's a chart. I know people say people from the East are yellow. Like, if you look at other Lakota medicine wheels, they don't have the colors in this order. But this is actually the order. If you're going to go by like racial category or skin color, right? Europeans are considered white. People from Africa, the South, are considered black. People from the West, they're considered red. My dad was Indian red. His skin was so beautiful. Indian red. And he had, like, if I didn't have locks, my hair would be curly. It wouldn't necessarily be kinky. It'd be spirally, quirky. And then the people to the East are considered yellow. But that doesn't mean that we have to be racist. It's just a chart. So back to the Neteru and the term TaMeri. TaMeri means, oh, I'm so glad you're enjoying the conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you. Whenever I stop to say thank you, I lose my train of thought, and it was so good. Okay, so the Neteru, so the Neters, the Neter, nature. We can unite on all the traditions that honor the elements, that honor the natural life, that honor the Milky Way galaxy. Last week, like I said, I didn't do my book. Last week we were reading from my book on the Milky Way cultures of Kemet, Mexico, and Peru, right? I wrote a book on it. I'm getting ready to publish my books, and I'm going to get back to writing my travel guides once I start traveling again. But that's how we can unite. We don't have to be separate. This is TaMarikan. Anyone who is willing to accept that the original Aboriginal people were copper colored or black, I don't believe they could have been. I believe we were copper colored, heavily melanated, right? Not like in Africa. It's a different location. I believe that at one time it was one planet and it broke off into pieces. But due to our geological location, we developed different appearances. I don't claim Africa because when it was all one continent, it wasn't called Africa. That was until after they split up. It's so simple. It's right there. So I believe that if we can unite here in TaMarikan based on the galactic culture, Sirius calendar, following the sun, following the moon, having festivals, having rituals, having ceremonies based on the natural motion, which is what the Maya, the Olmec, and the Quechua are still doing. I haven't studied all the other places I've been, but they're still doing it. We have the Black Hills of the Lakota, which reflects the sacred hoop in the sky, which is the constellations of Gemini in the Mayan tradition, the basketball court, Orion, which is a star, or the great turtle in the Mayan tradition, the great dog, Sirius, the eye, which is Aset, the eye. It's right there. When you're looking towards the sacred hoop, you're looking away from the center of the Milky Way. I need my other chart. When you're looking on the other end, towards Ophiuchus, Scorpio, Sagittarius, you're looking into the heart of the Milky Way. It has nothing to do with tribalism. It has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with Africa. It has nothing to do with what year is it. It has nothing to do with who was here first. It's just how we can unite as human beings. Okay, so that's my introduction, which lasted almost an hour. So normally what I do is I just choose a book from my collection here, and we just do a little reading. Oh, that's in the wrong box. I'm gonna pull this one out. This is my picture. Here we go. Maya Cosmos. This is the book by Linda Sheely. When I went back to grad school the second time, this is who I was studying with. And I stopped studying with her because I knew that she was going to just take our research projects and write a book. And so this is her book that she wrote without my research. I left. I didn't stay with her. So, but like I said, I started going live like this because it was inspiring me to get back to my research project. And I just have to make the time. I don't know when I will make the time. But anyway, I opened randomly to this page. The Flint Shields of the Ancestors. So this is page 305. Because see, they have all these scenes of battles and events in history. And if it's anything like the hieroglyphs in Kemet, there's a deeper meaning. It's not just about the battle. In Kemet, the battles are about defeating our ego and our spiritual journey to enlightenment. And I am convinced that the same story is going to be found here. That's what my research project is going to be. The Flint Shields of the Ancestors. Texts from Yaxchilan and Palenque identify these flint shields as objects passed down through generations from king to king. On lintel 45, for example, the text says that shield jaguar was the Utsakab Utok Upakab, the replacement of the flint of the shield of the not-eye jaguar, an earlier king of the city who may have been taken captive by a rival from Piedras Negras. Figure 712. That would be this one here. In the Temple of the Sun at Palenque, where I have been there, King Chan Bahlam received his flint shield from his dead father Pakal during his accession rituals. I bet it's ascension rituals. Figure 713. So this is their hieroglyphs, and I'm going to learn more about them. That's what my research originally was about this. So here we go. Shield Jaguar, and I'm the Jaguar priestess, by the way. A captor of he of flowers, holy Yakshilan Lord, the successor of the flint of the shield of the not eye jaguar. Oh, figure 712. The central image on the panel further explains the origin and nature of war in the Mayan view. This image is a war shield depicting the face of the cooler-eyed jaguar featured god Ahakim, who was the second born of what is called the Palenque Triad, the three gods who were the patron protectors of the kingdom. So see, they're talking about the Netaru, the Netarians, the Netaru of Olmec, of TaMeri, of Chi Amaru, of Amaruka. That's why I'm here. The image is a war shield depicting called the Palenque Triad, the three gods who were the patron protectors of the kingdom. Crossed spears, their blades emerging from the throats of white-boned snakes, emerge from behind the ancient shield. In turn, the shield and spears rest on a great bone throne mounted with the bleeding severed heads of a jaguar and two flanking snakes held up by two denizens of the other world. So that's another topic that we need to address. Ancestral right would like to join as a guest. Is the sacrifices. The sacrifice. My research shows that came later with the Maya, that was not the Olmec way. That's not us. They kept the glyphs going and the calendar and everything, but I believe they lost their way when they lost their Aboriginal connection and started shedding blood, just like all the other traditions around the world. Once they got away from the Natarian root, they started shedding blood. Yeah, I don't believe it was like that. That's my platform, and I'm a ride on. What is it? Ride or die. That's my stake in the sand. It's like, no, that's not us. It's not us. But we can learn from what they left behind and build or rebuild something that will propel us, to the future. Because we're not going to get by just claiming to be Black African American or Black Native Americans. That's not giving us any power. It's not giving us what we need to, live in this world. It's not going to help us. So we need to find that. We need to find our way. We've looked at their ways. Now we need to find our ways. We've got ways. We're just not connected to them. Like they're disconnected from the nectar, we're not connected to this. So we can learn from each other. Okay. Okay. The other world locations we discussed in chapters 4 and 6, figures 428, 617, 8. One is the 7 black yellow place, and the other is nicknamed the 9 place. These glyphs, along with the old gods who hold up the bone throne, the old gods, see, that's what I'm talking about, the old gods. That's what we're looking for, the old gods, the Aboriginal Olmec. Are any of you familiar with the work of Don Miguel Ruiz of the Four Agreements? Don Miguel Ruiz. He's a Toltec priest. Toltec tradition. His mother and grandmother were Toltec priestesses. All right. So my first trip out of the country was with him. I got to go with him to Teotihuacan, which is the place of Tehuti. Teotihuacan is the place of Jehuti. All right. So I got to go with a Toltec priest to the place of Jehuti back in 2005. It was my first time other than to Mexico, across the border from Laredo. Toltec is another Aboriginal lineage, like the Olmec. It's the Olmec, Toltec, Nwa, 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 Nwata. I don't remember the third one. Those are the old lineages. Those are the ones that we need to study. So the Four Agreements, which has now been commercialized, is another ancient technology. Four Agreements. What is it? Um, oh gosh. Never make assumptions. Never take things never take things personal. Always do your best. And what's the fourth one? Fourth one. You haven't read it? Oh, you gotta live it. That's a book you can't read it. You have to live it. That's old knowledge. Let's see. Let me look it up real quick. Wait, right here. Wait. Oh no, I'm getting it mixed up with the Ho'oponopono technology. I made a word. Always do your best. Okay. I made a song. Always be impeccable with your words. Always do your best. Never take things personal. Never make assumptions. Yeah, if you can live by those, your life will go to another level. Yeah. Yeah, don't just read it, Constance. Live it. Always do your best. Always be impeccable with your word. Never make assumptions. Never take things personal. It's ma'at. It's living by ma'at. Once we connect the dots, we'll see that this is TaMeri, another Kemetic, another Natarian continent. And then we'll see how the traditions went on to Asia and Europe as well. And then we can, reclaim our sovereignty as human beings. We're not going to need paperwork. Like right now, we need paperwork to get tax exemption as a sovereign spiritual organization, a 501c1a. I'm working on it. I don't have it completed, but I think I'm more than halfway there. But you got to have a spiritual foundation. Okay, I got off track. Let me just read this last paragraph. Okay. These glyphs, along with the old gods who hold up the bone throne, tell us that the power of war comes from the other world. So in the Natarian tradition, that would be the netherworld, or the underworld, right? And war is a fetter of set. Shan Balaam's younger brother, Khan Hawk Chitam, got his flint shield from his mother, while his father, Pakal, gave him the war helmet like the one Curl Snout wears on the side of Tikal Stela 31. Pakal himself got his battle helmet from his mother, but we know from the tablet of the slaves that Sahalab and other subordinate lords also inherited flint shields and war helmets from their parents and wielded them in battle. Chak Zutz, a high-ranked vassal lord, served his king well, and like the loyal officer of Smoking Frog of Tikal, earned the right to display a flint shield talisman, we presume through valor on the battlefield. The text certainly speaks of his war exploits and captures. He even sits on 2 unfortunate captures as he receives his flint shield from his mother. Okay, so this is my first time reading this after being in Kemetic traditions for 12 or 13 years, studying with Dr. Mwana Ashby. And so anytime they're talking about war, like you said, the old gods, like these are modern day translations of really ancient stories, just like Egyptian is like fake translations of Kemetic ancient stories. Anytime you're talking about war, you're talking about fighting fetters of set. Each person that's battled represents a different fetter of set and a different aspect of the ego. It's all about the battle within ourselves. And so I'm just going to be reading through these texts and seeing what I can learn from it as a spiritual being, not just a material being, a spiritual being on the road to enlightenment, a spiritual being on the road to eternity, a spiritual being that's incarnated to how put these puzzle pieces together. Like, let's look at this Palenque tablet of the slaves. Look at that. Palenque tablet of the slaves. I never even knew about that before. Wait, I'm backwards. Palenque tablet of the slaves. I'm gonna stop sharing this. Hold on. It's not getting bigger. Which one is it? This one. Oh, this one. No, wait, I'm backwards. The Palenque tablet of the slaves. Yeah, Palenque is a magical place. I just love it there. There's a community of hippies, Americans or Europeans that built a community. I can't remember the name of it. It's like Gilligan's Island. Everything's made of bamboo, and anything you need, you could find it there. It's a community, and I've considered going there to do my sound healing and live my life there, and just become one of those people there, just set out my little booth outside of the Jaguar Temple and just do sound healing right there. I'm so close to doing that, but my passion, my destiny, I wouldn't be able to fulfill it there if I did that. If I just gave up and just did that. So my plan is to just set myself up so that I can travel. I can do that a few months out of the year. But my commitment is to the people here of Turtle Island, not even the whole continent, because the rest of the continent is still connected to these old traditions. It's the people, the TaMarikans of Turtle Island, that we don't have this connection, this spiritual foundation. So that's my direction. Don't ask me when I'm going to have the time, but that's the goal. What other books do I have here? I guess we could talk a little bit about this one. I've had this book for years and I've never read it. The Mayan Prophecies. I don't know who this person is. He's not Linda Sheely. But I would love to get into this. I don't know about it at all. I just have the book. Here's a nice picture of an observatory, the Caracol Observatory. Oh, where is it? Interesting. Yeah. I'm gonna have to check this book out. I've been to a lot of oh, look, the Olmecs and Atlantis. Ooh, I'm gonna read that right now. Before I do, one of the first books that I read that brought me here was called Queen Mu and the Egyptian Sphinx. And it was written by Augustus Lepongian and his wife, and they were French that went here to Mexico, to Maya, and their research told them that Queen Mu, because that's called the land of Mu back then, not Mexico, the land of Mu, there was a war. This is what Horace Butler talked about, a civil war between North and South, and she escaped to Egypt. Somehow she took that current from the Yucatan back to Mali and then made her way all the way across to Egypt. And when she got there, the people recognized her as one of their ancestors that had returned to Kemet. And her art, her image was all over the temples. She was one of the ancestors of ancient Kemet, Queen Mu and the Egyptian Sphinx. Yeah. That book is out of print unless you can get a copy of it. And there's a copy locked up at the, what's that library? Gutenberg Library. It's locked up. You can't just go read it. And I had a copy. I had a printed copy. And like I said, my library was stolen when I moved from California to Chicago. The movers stole a lot of my precious belongings. And I lost my library. I don't know if I'll ever get that book again. But I'm gonna find it again. And anyway, I'm gonna read a little bit from here. I didn't know about this, and it's chapter 8. I appreciate those of you that are still here. And if you're listening, I'd love for you to tap the screen a few times and share the live. I'm going to be going a little bit longer, another 30 minutes or so. Thank you for being here. Constance, I believe you're still here. Thank you for just tuning in. Snooky Bear too. Okay, so I'm reading from this book I've had in my library for decades. I've never opened it. And since we're just talking about the Olmecs, and I have an Olmec head right here. Thank you. This Olmec I got when I was at Teotihuacan. And I believe it is basalt. Okay. Of basalt heads and beard. Oh, and also we had the reading before about the protective helmets. That's what the Olmec are wearing, these protective helmets. But they don't look like Mexicans. On our way from Palenque to Mérida, my wife Dee and I had made a tour to visit Villahermosa, the capital of Tabasco. This bustling modern city, because of its oil industry, was far more Americanized than any we had seen so far. Today it is very prosperous, but before the discovery of quote-unquote black gold, it must have been a desperately hard place to make a living. The area surrounding the city is a flat, boggy swamp into which everything seems eventually to sink, not best suited for farming. Previously, on our way out of the city to Palenque, our coach had been held up for several hours as a bridge was jacked back up to road level. This was apparently a common occurrence, though that knowledge didn't lessen our anxiety, as in darkness we gingerly made our crossing over the sleek, dark river some 50 feet below. On this occasion we had no problems, however, and after an uneventful, if rather hot journey, we arrived in the city in brilliant sunshine. Our goal was not the city itself, which for the approaching Christmas had large nativity sets on nearly every corner and Christmas trees from Canada filling the sweltering markets, but rather the outskirts. For here, like a little tropical oasis, and in defiance of thundering traffic going past, lies the famous La Venta Park. I had read about La Venta before leaving England and very much wanted to see it for myself. Set up in the 1950s by the poet, anthropologist, and collector Carlos Pellicer, it preserves in a more or less rural setting 31 of the most extraordinary and oldest sculptures to be seen in the Americas. Their original home, the island of La Venta, is a humid place of tropical swampland on the Tonala River. However, between 1200 and 600 BC, this unpromising piece of real estate was the capital city of the rubber people. The rubber people, that's how they make the basketballs. And Gemini is the basketball court constellation. The rubber people. Or Olmecs. I didn't know that was a name for the Olmecs. Who once inhabited the Tabasco River region, and it features the oldest pyramid so far found in the Americas. The origins of the civilization are lost in the midst of time, but go back to at least 3000 BC. The Olmecs are credited with many of the most important cultural developments of Central America, including the first proper cultivation of maize and the invention of the famous ball game that seems in classic times to have had as much fascination for ancient Mexicans of all races as soccer does today. Because Olmec pyramids were built out of mud bricks, little remains of them, but mounds of earth, most of which have yet to be excavated. But because they made their sculptures out of basalt, a hard volcanic stone, these have survived in rather better condition. The influence, and I'm reading from The Maya Prophecy by Adrian Gilbert, page 160. This is a book I've had in my library for decades and I've never read it. I just randomly chose it out of my bag. I'm reading chapter 8 on the Olmec. The influence of the Olmecs extended throughout much. Oh, and I just wanted to reiterate that the Olmecs, known as the rubber people, inhabited the Tabasco region. So when you're eating Tabasco sauce, you're eating Olmec sauce. And that the rubber ball game, famous ball game, basketball, who the copper people excel at to this day, the Gemini constellation on the sacred hoop is called the basketball court in the Olmec tradition. See, I'm just putting together these dots. I'm getting all excited. The influence of the Olmecs extended throughout much of Central America to the Mayaland in the east and the Oaxaca Valley in the west. Unfortunately, and unknown to them, their capital sat on top of one of the largest oil fields in Mexico. Wow. I had no idea. My heart is reacting right now. It's feeling really like lava, stone, feeling heavy stone. When in 1937, during archaeological excavations, this was revealed, it posed a quandary. How could the site be exploited commercially without destroying it for archaeology? Now I'm getting ready to cry. It was realized that little could be done for the site itself if Mexico were to make the most of this new resource. The best that could be achieved was to remove whatever was portable to an area of relative safety. Thus it was that La Venta Park in Villahermosa became the new home of the priceless Olmec statues. Arriving at the park gates, we made our way through a small zoo to the Lagoon of Illusions, where the sculptures stand. The first to greet us was the Walker, a piece of basalt about 2 feet high. Oh, the Walker. The Walker. Now, in the Natarian tradition from Kemet, anytime you are seen with a knife, is to defeat chaos and ignorance of the divine and egoism. Displaying a relief of a striding bearded figure carrying a flag. Oh, it's a flag. Okay, good. Underneath which were 3 barely legible hieroglyphs. See figure 53, which we looked at. To me, the Walker, so it's a flag, not a knife, thank goodness. To me, the Walker looked very much like the Egyptian Orion. Well, he does have a belt, and there's 3 objects next to the belt. Let me keep reading. Like I said, I've had this book for years. I've never read it. I just chose it randomly out of my bag of books. Except that instead of holding a staff, he had a flag. I was therefore not surprised to be told that one of the 3 symbols represented a star. There was no explanation, however, for why he should have been bearded. A flag, a star, he's got on a belt. Okay, just a little bit more. I'm excited. This is exciting for me. Thank you for being here. There are quite a number of bearded sculptures by the Olmecs and other early peoples, including some of the dancers of Monte Alban, in that it is a fact of genetics that full-blooded Amerindians do not grow beards. Amerindians, those would be the American Indians, who are not the Aboriginal Americans, who are not the Olmec, Toltec, Nahuatl. They're the Amerindians. Like I stopped claiming American Indian because this isn't India, right? Like why am I going to claim to be from American from India? I'm not from India. That's like Kamala Harris claiming she's black when she's Irish and Indian. I'm not American Indian. And our people definitely have beards. Yeah, I prefer a man with a beard actually. Wow. In that it is a fact of genetics that full-blooded Amerindians do not grow beards, this is a matter that continues to perplex archaeologists. Attempts have been made to explain the beards as deformed jaws. That's like Egyptologists saying that Egypt is not in Africa. But it is clear to any impartial observer that there really is no explanation that holds water other than that the individuals so represented were not Amerindians. They were not Mayan. They're not Mexican. They're not Aztec. They're not Inca. You know what? Don Miguel Ruiz has a beard. Yeah, he definitely has a beard. It seemed that right at the start of our jungle trek, we were faced with evidence for pre-Columbian contacts. Oh, that's what they call it. Pre-Columbian. I forgot. Pre-Columbian is their term for Aboriginal. Pre-Columbian. Okay. Then we're restoring pre-Columbian culture and identity. If you don't want us to be calling Aboriginals, although I want to be referred to anyway, connected to Columbus. I like the term Aboriginal because in the Netarian, Medu Neter, Ab is heart. Heart, Aboriginal, the original heart. Ma'at, keep your heart as light as a feather. Whew, I'm getting chills. I'm all excited. Okay, just a little bit more. Yeah, we're good. A little further down the trail, we came to the first of the famous Olmec heads. See plate 38. I don't see plate 38, you guys. Oh, okay, here we go. Oh, yeah, that's the one I showed earlier. It's probably one I have in my collection. This is the one they were showing, page 30. Plate 38. I'm so glad I have this book. Some 18 of these have been discovered to date, and new ones are regularly being unearthed all over the Tabasco region. But isn't it heartbreaking that they were doing an archaeological dig, they found the heads, and then they found it was on top of an oil reserve? The Olmec capital was built on top of an oil reserve in Tabasco. And now all we know about is Tabasco sauce. That is blowing my mind. That is blowing my mind. Right now, this is really blowing my mind. Yeah, I'm a little speechless right now. It's hurting me. It's hurting. Fashioned out of huge blocks of basalt, these heads can be 10 feet high and nearly as broad. I showed you the picture of one from the cover of my book, 2007. That's how big they are. If you look closely, you can see my toes are curled up. And one of my teachers said that's because of all the energy. And we went inside the museum there. This was in San Andreas at Catemaco. San Andreas. We started in Catemaco, we went to San Andreas, then we went to Ijapantla. There was a statue. I stood in front of it for like 30 minutes. And I was getting some sort of energetic download. I couldn't move. I was just standing right in front of it. And my travel companion said, "So are you pregnant?" It was so funny. It was so funny. I have to go back. I have to get back there. I don't have to move there. I don't have to live there. I'm going to continue fighting for this community in Chatham that's like gentrified, but I've got to go back there. But first, I have to go back to Cahokia. I have to go to Cahokia. I said back to, I've never been in this lifetime. The ones in the park were by no means the largest that have been discovered, but were nevertheless impressive. These heads have a heavy, lowering presence, like gigantic boxers sunk up to their necks in mud. Like the walker, it is not known what their true function and purpose was, but it is assumed that they represent either powerful rulers or renowned players of the ubiquitous ball game, because the Olmecs are the rubber people, play the basketball game. In the Palenque, there's a basketball court still there. They have a metal rim, and if your team lost, by the time the Mayans had the tradition, the whole team was executed. It was very serious. I can't even. But that wasn't the Olmec way. I know that. There's no way. Okay, because of the building. Oh, wait. This game, a sort of basketball played with a hard rubber ball on dumbbell-shaped courts with sloping sides, had ritual significance. At Chichen Itza, there are shafts radiating from the caracol towards both the stars and the ball courts below. Below this building is now known to have been used as an observatory for the planet Venus. It has been suggested that this was so that the ritual game could be played in accordance with heavenly phenomenon. Wow, I didn't think about that, but of course. There's a constellation called the basketball court that's pointed towards the outer arm of the Milky Way. It's the sacred hoop. It's Sirius and Aset and Orion right there. Like, of course, they would play games. And that's what the Lakota do to this day. They have a race. They run around the Black Hills, which is an area that reflects in shape the sacred hoop. Okay. It is believed that the captain of the winning team was beheaded at the end of the match, so that his spirit could take flight and go off to the highest heaven. If this is really the case, maybe the gigantic lumps of basalt somehow represent these now deified basketball captains. Whether or not this is the case, the heads with their thick lips and flat noses look very Afro, again supporting the theory that America was visited by outsiders long before Columbus. Wow. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, they're saying that they were beheaded as an honor so they could go to the highest heaven. I don't know. I believe that those practices came later, but I'm still going to find out. In addition to the heads and the walker, La Venta Park, because this is like the Egyptologists interpreting ancient Kemetic spirituality, which I don't believe them. So why am I going to believe what people have said about the Maya? Because the Maya are not the same as the Olmec. But I don't know. I believe that whatever they say, there's a spiritual meaning behind it. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for the sacrifice ritual. I'm looking for the spirituality of the ritual. In addition to the heads and the walker, La Venta Park contains other basalt sculptures from the Olmec period. Foremost among these are several altars. These stand about 3 feet from the ground and usually have carved on the front of them a priest in a semi-lotus position. Looking closely, I could see that some of the figures were figure 39. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the thing about the sacrifice is. I don't know. I know when I went to Teotihuacan with Don Miguel Ruiz in 2005, one of the friends that I made on the tour, we all had different experiences. When I went to a certain location or spot, I was moved to offer music. I started singing Cherokee and Lakota songs. And everybody was watching me. And I was like in another dimension. I would just go to a place and start singing. And then another one of my companions, everywhere she would go, when she would go to a sacred place, she would start bleeding because they said that whenever, every time they take women on this trip, when they go to this certain room, somebody starts their period. And they never know who it's going to be. And this time it was my roommate. And she had already had her period that month, like a week ago, she just finished. But when we went to that room, everybody's like, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? She's like, oh my gosh, it's me. And it was just like a waterfall of blood gushing out of her. And, you know, we had to go find her some clothes to wear because we weren't at our room. We were at the site. And then we'd go to another room, another location, and it would just be gushing. It was very weird. She'd already had her period that month. Like, she wasn't supposed to be bleeding again till next month. And she never had her period. Like, where it's coming through her clothes. Like, you can see the blood coming through her pants. And she's like, oh my gosh, I know. And we have to go buy her something else to wear. And then the third one of my friends, every time she would go, we would go to a certain site. I would be singing, my friend's bleeding. And this other woman, she would be vomiting because she was seeing the sacrifices. She was seeing, like, in another time, she could see people being sacrificed. And she saw heads rolling down the stairs and the blood going down the pyramids. And she was like, ah! Nobody else could see it. So we had 3 different experiences of the same place, right? So that tells you, like, maybe she was there reincarnated during the time the Aztec Maya were doing this. And my other friend, maybe she had been a priestess. And me, I know I'm a Jaguar priestess. So I don't really know what to say about the sacrifice, but I'm not going to let it scare me. I'm not going to let it scare me because, like, right now, if you go to an Indian reservation, you may not see anybody this color at all. So I'm not going to go by what they're saying. I'm just not. There's a deeper truth that I believe can connect us and heal all of these wounds of separation. That's my vision, my goal. And I'm going to find out about this. I'm not going to let it keep me away because I believe this holds a key. This holds part of the mystery. Because they say that's what happened with the mounds. Is that what they say? What happened with the mounds in Cahokia too? I don't know. Why were they doing that? What were they doing before they started doing that? That's what I want to know. What were they doing before? Yes, you would be the one. You would be the one. Yeah, if you ever go to Teotihuacan, make sure that in your backpack with your water and your energy bars and your camera and a sweater, you can have extra sanitary pads. Because if you're still ovulating or menstruating, you might be the one. Okay, I'm gonna finish this paragraph and then we'll stop. Okay. Okay. Where was I? Oh, plate 39. Okay. Looking closely, I could see that some of the figures were wearing rattlesnake insignia and jaguar headdresses. Now that you find that in the Tyrian traditions, indicating the importance of both these cults, even at that early time. Usually, the leopard skin or the leopard cloth represents priesthood. I don't know what well, I'm a Jaguar priestess, so, but I don't know what the Jaguar headdress is. How do I know I'm a Jaguar priestess? Because when I went there, it was revealed to me in more than one ways. I even have a black Jaguar tattoo on my on my calf, because in the Mayan calendar, zodiac, whatever, I'm a black Jaguar. Other details were less easy to understand. On one of the altars, the priest was holding out a baby as though invoking a blessing upon it. At the sides of the same block were depictions of other adults holding children in a protective manner, as though shielding them from something frightening. See plate 40. I don't know if we can see that very good on here. Plate 40. What this could have been is it was impossible to tell, but the youngsters seemed secure with the adults who were probably represented the children's parents and who once again wore snake and jaguar insignia. Looking at this altar, I wondered whether this emphasis on childhood and the need for protection could have some connection with the cataclysmic beginnings of the present age. Yes, I was thinking the same thing. Maybe that's when their community was about to be invaded by bloodthirsty community, and they had to protect their children from being stolen for sacrifice, the same way we have running our world today with child trafficking and pedophilia and sacrifice. That's what's coming to my mind right now. That this was not the original Olmec, but this was some invaders that had brought this practice with them. And we don't know where they came from. This is making sense to me now. I'm really grateful for that. Grateful for this. Constance Woo Woo says, when I went to the Hindu temple in Orlando, I was sliding in and out of dimensions and seeing things and felt like throwing up. I'm a seer. Yes. Okay. Yeah. It's confirmation. Yeah. I know I'm a chantress, and I chant and I sing and I manifest. We'll be talking about this tomorrow, but I guess it's part of today, TaMarikan Tuesday. I realized that I have spent 40 years down on myself because I don't know how to make money. I don't make money. And I put myself down. I compare myself to people who are able to make money. And I know the reason I can't make money is because once you know, you can't know. And money is energy. I'm a physicist. And energy can't be created or transformed. Or destroyed. It can only be transformed. And that's why I can't make money. And I've been trying for 40 years to make money. So what I'm realizing is, as an chantress, I need to up my manifestation practices because I have manifested many great situations and things and events. And that's part of the wisdom that's contained in here is transcending the matrix, transcending the need for money, transcending the need to work, to be a slave, is transcending that. And that's why I'm doing this work, is because I'm going to figure it out. And then I'll be able to help others. Yeah. So manifesting, learning how to manifest by using the Neteru, the cosmic forces of nature, because we're not just supposed to worship them, we're supposed to become them. We're supposed to learn how to utilize these forces and manifest our own enlightened lifestyle. And that's the purpose of Good Rising TV, rising in consciousness and understanding and wisdom and raising our vibrations so that we become Neteru and manifest, not work for money and not trade time for money. I don't work for money. Money works for me. Okay, I'm just going to finish this paragraph and then we'll be done. I said that already. Okay, yeah, but like he was saying, I believe that too. Some connection with the cataclysmic beginnings of the present age. Like, did you see that movie they made about the Maya? What was it called? I can't remember what it was called, but they showed the Maya as bloodthirsty sacrificers. And then the Europeans came, right? So where did they come from? They was taken from the Olmec and started all this sacrificing. That's where I am with this right now. I'm gonna have to write this down. The child trafficking and the rituals and the satanic rituals. Maybe the Maya used the Olmec knowledge the same way the elite are using Kemetic knowledge to do their havoc. What is it called? The cabal. Because they thought they had that word in their language, the cabal? The cabal. The bloodthirsty, ritualistic, satanic practices that overpowered the Aboriginal. So that's my new platform. Thank you very much, Good Rising TV. There's just a few more sentences in this paragraph. There was a sense hard to pin down, but nonetheless there that the adults were protecting the children from the forces of nature. The enigmatic stones remain mute on this point, but they do at least give some insight into the strange world of the rubber people, the earliest known civilization of America. That's very interesting. Protecting the children from the forces of nature. Okay, well, I'm definitely going to look into that. Because that's the exact opposite of Natarian. You don't protect your children from the forces of nature. But you could have to protect them from invaders who are dressed like forces of nature, demanding sacrifice. Because, when you look at like movies of Aboriginal cultures, the Polynesians, the Balis, and Australia, like Gilligan's Island, all that stuff, they showed us making offerings to the forces of nature, like their life depended on it, But it's a totally different vibe than you get from the way they do it in Kemet. So what happened? Okay. Oh, what page was that? That was page 161, 162. I started page chapter 8. Okay, chapter 8. Thank you so much for being with me on this healing journey to uncover our Olmec traditions, our mound builder traditions, the TaMarikan traditions of TaMeri, understanding the Neteru more. On Wednesdays, Good Rising TV focuses on Wellness Wednesdays, where we talk about different tools and practices from my healing journey back from assault and being drugged and phenobarbital 3 times a day and vaccinations at age 6 months, all the tools that I've used. And then also, new ones, wellness traditions, natural healing traditions. I do astrology, we do a little sound healing, we talk about frequencies, do Bach flower remedies, I read from some books, talk about crystals, just different things that help me, that I know would help others. And then on Thursdays, it's Natarian Devotion on Thursdays, where we learn more about the Neteru and about a Natarian spiritual practice. Some would say a Kemetic spiritual practice, but like I say, it was Natarian. It's not limited to one place or time. The Neteru are eternal, and they're not limited to ancient African Egypt. They're not limited to Kemet. They're not limited to Uganda. They're not limited to Nigeria. They're not limited to Mali. They're not limited to India. They're not limited to anywhere. The Neteru are everywhere. And I believe if we learn more about them, that we can come together like the Hopi prophecy, bring the teachings of the 4 directions together. We'll know the truth. And then at that point, we'll be able to defeat Western imperialism and Caucasity without using any weapons. It's about these shackles on our brains and the way they've altered our DNA. We have to do DNA repair. That's why sound healing is so effective. It can actually repair your DNA or activate dormant DNA. That's why sound is so valuable, sound healing. And that's probably why I don't have that many customers. It's because people don't know about it or they don't understand it. People are just in those singing bowls. They don't realize that you can go deeper. So if you're enjoying these sessions, I really appreciate your presence. Thank you so much to Good Rising TV from the Light Being Wellness Center and Asmataji Temple, Divine Light Healing and Sweet Sounds. And very near future, I don't know when, I will be doing the online offerings. We're also doing the Akusaneb Reflective Movement Meditation Yoga Posture System on Fridays from 3 to 5 p.m. here in Chicago at the Life and Wellness Center. And I'm going to start the online stream of the class soon for subscriptions. I'm still doing the Spiral Dance Medicine Wheel live stream, but I will be offering that to temple members, virtual temple members. I will be starting up the Cosmic Adorations again. I know I stopped. My heart broke when my heart was stolen last August 12th. And I'm going to be starting again, even though I don't have a new replacement. Thank you so much for coming, Constance. Thank you. I know I'll see you again soon. One love. And we're doing that again soon. And then the Cosmic Chimes and Chanting sessions will start again with the subscription. And yeah, I was doing the Cosmic Adorations. I was doing it for the ancient African Egyptian holy days and the divine holy days. And I'm just going to be doing it for the cosmic holy days, just to keep it simple. All right, I'll see you tomorrow for Wellness Wednesday, Good Rising TV. Hatep. Do a hatep. Thank you for staying to the end. I so appreciate your presence. It's a gift to me.